I just wanted to really have a discussion with you all about 3 areas where I'm seeing realtors either get sued at or reported to the Real Estate Commission on. And so in reverse order, number 3 would be making sure your critical conversations are confirmed in an email every single time. Like, I know it's weird, but we make our lawyers do it, you know, and we kind of check each other. So, you know, we'll have a weekly meeting. We have 2 weekly meetings now. And I'll ask the lawyers, would you confirm that by email? And usually they'll say, yeah, because they've gotten in the habit of it, you know. But sometimes, oh, yeah, I need to do that. Because it's not second nature to think, I need to confirm this by email. But anything that is, you know, that might get questioned or whatever. And I would say, and you might ask, well, what exactly do we need to do? I would say err on the abundance of caution. If you wonder if this should be covered by email, I would cover it. For example, any kind of offers that pass, you know, or whatever. You know, maybe I know some realtors just talk about it on the phone and then we're not interested in that. And then they just respond, I've seen this, and they just respond then to the other side and say, hey, we're not interested in that. You know, we don't want to do that. And then, well, you never told me about that. You never said anything. Well, if you've got it in writing somewhere, you know, everything that I think can ever come back on you, you want in writing, some way, somehow. Email's best, but text will definitely work. And you're right. I mean, these things take more time, but, you know, it only takes one person to ruin your year. You know, I mean, one person who's got a bee in their bonnet who lies about you will ruin your year, or maybe your profession if they've got a good enough lie. And so, so number 2, this is very similar, which is this. When a lawyer has a conversation with you about your client, be sure and disclose that conversation to your client. So my lawyers and most real estate lawyers will deal directly with the realtor. They will not have separate conversations with your client without first asking you or without first telling you they're going to do it, okay? And so we have our lawyers call you all the time to disclose, hey, there's a drainage easement on this property or whatever, you know. And so you need to be sure to push those messages along to your clients. We had one, it was about 3 or 4 months ago, we had one come across where this is from a few years ago, Jenny was telling me about this, where the owner of the property was ticked off because we never told him about an easement across the property. And we got back to looking at our stuff and, well, we told the realtor. And the realtor didn't disclose it to the, you know, and the realtor said, we're good with it, move on, no survey needed. And so that's all on the realtor, you know. And so I would just, if you're, whatever lawyers you're dealing with our firm, once we communicate it, we're done unless you ask us to talk to your client, explain a little, which we're happy to do.
I do that a lot.
You know, like, hey, can you guys just talk to my client and explain this? We're happy to do that, but we won't do that unless you ask us to, okay? And so if we are talking directly to them, then it's on us to make sure we've cut. So then we'll send a follow-up email. Hey, per our conversation, we've let you know there's an easement. We'll do that. But if y'all don't ask us to get in y'all's loop, we don't. We want to stay out of y'all's business. And so that's just please push those messages along that we send or whoever sends to your clients. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Probably about a year ago, we had a similar situation to it, and matters to the client to disclose to them. We had someone who really wanted to put a garden as close to the fence as possible. There was a 5-foot easement, the restrictive covenants had taken. Can't do that. They backed out. And if they hadn't known about it and they went to do it, anything comes up with that easement, that would have been a big thing.
So we have the, I guess, unspoken philosophy that we have, which I think is good for y'all. I was a litigation lawyer, and so I've seen how people get sued a million different ways over dumb stuff, is we over-disclose and over-email. So if you want to keep from getting sued, over-disclose and over-email. So which brings me to number 1, which is those disclosures. in the very beginning. If and this is not even close. On the litigation end, those disclosures bring more, get more realtors in trouble than anything else. And so, for me, I guess probably what most, I don't know what you guys do, probably what most realtors do is they at least have a conversation with them as they're filling it out. You know, like, hey, here, you know, sometimes maybe it's by Zoom, sometimes it's maybe across the table, you know. That's good. That's what most realtors do. What that doesn't prevent, and I'm just telling you what I see, is a seller coming back and saying, well, I told you this. You know, I told you that we were on septic, not sewer. And you just checked the wrong box. That's on you. And I just signed what you said to say. You know, sellers in the litigation world, the seller will turn on their realtor so fast if they're going to, people point fingers. And so what can you do to cover yourself in that event? I'll tell you what I would do is I would, again, over email, before I submit the seller disclosures to the other side, I would send them to the seller one more time by email and say, please look over these to make sure I have it exactly as you want it and that I've not misunderstood you at all. I'm basing everything on what you've said. And if you do that email, then I think you're going to protect yourself from 99.9999% of those negligent or intentional fraud claims that get brought on those disclosures.